Okay, this is my autobiography. Today's date is July 29th, the year 2000. My name is Joseph N. Weiss. I was born August 5th, 1920 in Slinger, Wisconsin. We had a large family. There was Mom, Pop, 5 girls, and 4 boys. My father managed the Farmers State Bank in Slinger. He was a self-taught musician and could play the clarinet, the concertina, and the mouth organ. Pop was also a great fisherman, hunter, and a very sharp card player. Our mother was the jack of all trades. She could paint the house, she could plant the garden, she could cut the grass, she'd bake bread, stollen, kuchen, schnecks, every Thursday or Friday. And Mom would also go to church almost every day after we were grown up. She would walk the 6 blocks to church, rain or shine. One day the priest told me to tell my mother she didn't have to go to church during a snowstorm. She went anyway. Some people thought we were quite wealthy because Pop worked in a bank. And that wasn't true at all. There were 800 people in Slinger and 2 banks. His income was very modest. I don't know how they did it, except they were very frugal. Still, we were never deprived of the basic necessities. The 2 oldest boys, Ray and Arnie, graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison during the early 30s and found successful jobs. I always had a paper route, and it seemed good to live in a small town. During the summer, we hitchhiked to Cedar Lake to go swimming. In the winter, we sledded. And our house was on the slope of a hill. The roads were not plowed in those days, and farmers hauled their milk to the creamery and came right past our house. We would watch carefully, then jump on the rudder of the farmer's wagon, and we got a free ride. So we thought that was great fun. In 1933, the government closed all the banks in the country because of a financial crisis. My father's bank never reopened. He was out of work. There was no unemployment insurance in those days. I don't know how we survived. Fortunately, about 5 months later, Pop got employment at the First National Bank in West Bend. The layoff proved to be a blessing in disguise because we moved to West Bend and soon everybody had a job. I was in 8th grade when we moved, and I thought West Bend was a really big city. I got a paper route quite soon, which prevented me from participating in after-school activities until late in high school. The neighbors wondered where and how all of us fit into our newly occupied home on 8th Avenue. There were 9 of us in a fairly modest home. Ray was employed in Stevens Point and Armella in Milwaukee. In high school, I became good friends with Maybelle Smith, the best-looking girl in school. I don't know how that was possible because I was a pretty homely fellow. I managed to graduate from high school, although I was a poor student. I didn't care to study, and I didn't know how to study. Nevertheless, my father insisted that I attend the University of Wisconsin-Madison after graduation from high school. At that time, the University of Wisconsin was rated the 7th greatest university in the United States. I'm surprised I lasted a year and a half. It was now 1939. World War II was starting, and I got a job in the machine shop at Gale's, earning 35 cents an hour. Later, several of us decided to work in Milwaukee. The pay there was 90 cents an hour. Maybelle and I were crazy about each other at this time, and became married January 26, 1942. Not too long after, I was drafted into the Army. We had our first child, Jeannie, within 5 months I went overseas for 2.5 years. We landed in Africa, and one of the first things I saw was a camel. I was in ordnance supply, fortunately, because I didn't have to shoot anybody. The military took me from Africa to Ireland, England, France, and Germany. I waited ashore in Normandy during the invasion of Europe and was lucky to have survived the whole war and glad to get back home after almost 3 years in the Army. My first job after the war was with Lip Ivo, like chapstick. I remained with this company for 12 years. I overheard management talk about selling the business, so I kept my eyes and ears open and found employment with Hardware Mutual Insurance Company, now known as Century Insurance. I represented the company in Washington County for 13 years and had some fine years with Century until a new sales manager put great pressure on all of us to sell more insurance. As time went on, our family multiplied and grew. We now had 4 children, 1 boy, 3 girls, Joel, Jeannie, Michelle, and Camille, all doing well. Our new home is located behind Rigner Park in West Bend, the best lot in the city. At age 50, I decided to manage my own insurance agency. I left Century and had my office on Main Street in West Bend. At age 65, I retired. My financial position would have been much more favorable had I stayed with Century, but I also may have had a nervous breakdown. So I have no regrets regarding employment. I have now been retired for 15 years and really enjoy the relaxed living. While employed, Maybelle and I earned many interesting trips. We went to Acapulco, Mexico. We went to Hawaii, her favorite. We went to Florida many times. We traveled to New York, Connecticut, Yellowstone National Park, Texas, Florida, California, etc. So we got around quite well. During the years, I kept quite active. I was president of the West Bend Toastmasters Club for 2 years. I sang in a great barbershop quartet for 25 years. I was very active at Holy Angels Parish. I was a choir member for 40 years, a trustee for 12 years, treasurer for 10 years, a commentator for 12 years, etc. I feel now that I am 80 years old, that I have been truly blessed all these years. Every day I say a prayer of thanks for having my wife Maybelle, for the wonderful 4 children that we have, and for our 8 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. We have now been married 58 years and are reasonably healthy, so I am sincerely thankful for all that I have.
Now, how about, can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Dad, do you, what do you do with your pastime? What are some of your favorite things that you do?
My favorite pastime is, if I can really relax, is I love to read, and I love to read biographies of important people. In the last few years, I've read the biography of Winston Churchill, Anwar Sadat. Probably the most interesting of all is this man from India, Mahatma Gandhi. I've read biographies of Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, Harry Truman, the great religious man Martin Luther, St. Francis of Assisi. Those are just some examples. I just love to read the biographies of people.
So in active things, I think there's a sport that you like that's probably your
Well,
favorite.
then during the comfortable time of the year, I like to get out on that golf course. But we have a pretty good sized lot here in West Bend, so it requires considerable amount of time. I like to do yard work. We have a garden, we have a good sized lawn that requires maintenance. We paint the house, we do all kinds of maintenance work. So I have been retired now for about 16 years, and I can hardly remember ever being bored.
Well, I think even that voice we heard over this direction, right over here, you do some babysitting for this guy right here. What's that guy's name right there?
Yeah, we spent a few days going to Milwaukee at first, right off Oklahoma Avenue, taking care of a young boy by the name of Bryce Ritter. And then later, when they moved to Muskego, we would get down there about once a week to take care of this boy while both her father and her mother went off to work.
That's the oldest grandson and the youngest grandson.
No, he has a younger brother, doesn't he?
Grandson.
He's got a brand new younger brother. Well, and then in winter you can't golf. You've got another sport that we've shared together, in fact, and sometimes in the snow.
Well, in the winter I spend a lot of time shoveling snow.
Well, how about and a little cross-country skiing too?
And living next to the park, I prepare some trails for skiing. And if the snow is right, I'd love to get out of the park and do some skiing.
Oh yeah.
Right in our backyard, in the woods, Regner Park, West Bend. It's wonderful.
Oh yeah, well we could even zoom over here and take a look at that park, but we'll be outside a little later
Okay, now I think you gotta know.
to look at the big spruce tree here. I'm going to walk outside and show you a little bit of this home. Instead, this is the backyard that all of us kids have spent quite a bit of time, and I think we moved into this house when I was a teenager. But this is the expansive yard of the Weiss family. Now, being inexperienced with this camera, let's see if I can do this without shaking it up. I'm going to show you the back of the home. Now you can see a little bit of refuse here left around in the yard because we have an in-law that is quite experienced in pyrotechnics. In fact, we had some spectacular fireworks here last night. Now we're going to see if we can swing this thing around, and here you see the back of the house. And this actually is an extension that was not on the home originally, but was put onto the home. Now you see off to the left, you actually see that red flag right there. My father has always been so fond of the game of golf that he actually had a little chipping area here. He would clear an area in the city park and then would chip balls into the backyard. And one of my sisters, Mickey, said that he used to do this for sport in summer and clang the balls against the window so he would wake her up because she was sleeping too late. Now I'm going to swing around and see if I can get you to the front of the house. And hope I don't make anybody seasick here. Oh, here we have a couple of family members. Here's Dad, and this is another one of Dad's favorite things right here. He's always been the grill master of the family, and the specialty today will be, as it always has been around here, we're going to have some bratwurst. And here's Tim. Tim is a karate expert, and let's hope he doesn't get too close to the camera. And this is my significant other, my wife, Pat. See? And now we will interview some of these people a little bit later. Now we're going to walk around and see if we can't show you the front of this house. And this being the year 2000, if I'm not mistaken, we've been in this home since it must be the early 60s. Now here we see some fabulous vehicles. Yeah, here's part of the front house. I'm going to back out to the street, and then we're going to save the rest of the footage for people. But this is the home that I remember and grew up in for the most part, as did my sisters. Well, this is my mother. This is the woman that married Joe Weiss, and this being the celebration for Dad's 80th birthday, what would you like to add to some of Dad's comments?
Well, he may be turning 80, but he's acting like 40, and I am exhausted trying to keep up with him. He still mows his own lawn, which he's bragging about, does everything else anybody else can do, and probably a little better. But it's been interesting, and most of all, we're proud of our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, and I guess I will always love the guy.
Do you have any, if you had any real special memories of anything in particular, a trip you took maybe, or anything in particular, any special memories?
Well, the only real bad memory is when he left for the service. Jeannie was 3 months old when he left and 3 years old when he came back. And those were 3 very sad, worrisome years. But then we caught ourselves and started having a bigger family, and my biggest trip was to Hawaii.
Oh.
That was terrific.
And you two won that? That was a trip that Dad probably won.
Dad won it. I can't remember exactly how, but it was selling insurance. He was a top salesman in Wisconsin, or in some area.
Dad tells the tale of when you two met. Do you actually remember that? Was there any significance to that? Were you just run into each other in the halls in high school?
Well, he was the cutest guy in the senior class, and I was well, what do we say? Not a very bashful sophomore. He didn't have the guts to ask anybody to go on a date, so I finally asked him with the help of an old buddy.
Weren't you a liberated woman?
Yes, way before my time.
Well, good. Any other special things you'd like to add to this?
Just that we've been happily married. I think Dad's biggest accomplishment was when we were able to buy this house that he thinks is the best lot in the state of Wisconsin.
Of course.
She's feeding the baby. Yeah, you can go in, but don't wake the baby. That's our youngest grandson. No, it isn't. That's right. We got a younger one.
We almost made that mistake before. Now that he's got a brother that's, 2 weeks old, I think it is?
2 months.
Great. Well, we'll interview that gang a little bit later. Well, thanks, Mom.
Thank you.
Okay. We're recording now, Joel.
You're recording now?
Yes.
Well, are you going to ask me some questions, or should I just...
Well, what is the purpose of this little recording here with you?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm hard of hearing, so if you're going to ask me something, that's a hereditary factor of the Weiss family, as a matter of fact.
Well, let's talk about that Weiss family.
Well, let me first tell you that I'm the second eldest of the 4 children of Joe and Maybelle Weiss, and I was born in '47, making me 53 years old, which is something that's pretty remarkable unto itself. But we're celebrating this birthday at my home, my parents' home, and where I spent the most of my ages from young teens on. And I've got lots of fond memories of being here, and like my father, I think this is one of the best properties in all of the state of Wisconsin. And, oh my God, I think I'm going to get sick. Can you concentrate? Because I can't. My wife, who's recording this, gets seasick, and she's just lucky she's on the end of the camera that she is. Let's see, what can I tell you? I think I do have to say that I'm very proud and have been very fortunate to be a part of this family. And my father and, of course, my mother provided us with a great upbringing in the state of Wisconsin. And in my father's character, I'd be proud to be his son, and to say that my father is a kind of man who is very sincere. He says what's on his mind, and sometimes we find that to be humorous, but I think most importantly it's a great characteristic, and I think my father's the kind of man that if anybody needed anything, he would be the first one there to offer whatever help he could, right from his heart. And I think both us children as well as the grandchildren have experienced his affection and his fatherliness. Let's see, what kind of things do you think would be important to be on this tape path that I might be able to offer?
Do you have some of the same traits as your father?
Here we go with hereditary. Let's see. Mannerisms I'm not so sure are hereditary, but having some of the same physical features often makes my sisters giggle and think that I have lots of the same mannerisms as my father does. But it's pretty apparent. I think when I was in high school I already had a receding hairline, and that inevitable physical mannerism was going to be there in a hell of a hurry. I too am a little bit hard of hearing, and unlike my father, I don't find that to be a blessing in disguise. I actually like to hear lots of stuff. What else? Other than that, I'm not sure what other characteristics I might have that he has. Were you suggesting anything in particular?
No, just
You better be careful because you're going to be on the opposite side of the camera here in a minute.
perhaps when people ask you a question, it's not just a simple yes or no. And I think that's the same with Joe.
Well, I've certainly been known to elaborate and pontificate on certain subjects.
Okay, I'm going to stop this now.
Well, this is my wife. This is Joel speaking. And I'm the second in the family again, and this is my wife of 5 years. But Pat and I, Pat, how long have we been together?
19 years.
So I would guess you might be an expert in evaluating the Weiss hold.
Well, let's see. I think it's appropriate I get to stand by the flowers because I am the woman of our family. And the flowers are definitely Maybelle's priority here. Let's see.
Well, what's your impression? You first met Joel, of course, and that was at a traditional Wisconsin type of an establishment. But what was your impression as you met the Weiss family, and Joe in particular, seeing we're celebrating his birthday today?
I've always loved Joe, and I like his honesty and that he's not afraid to ask any question to anybody. And I think people don't feel intimidated by him because what's he going to do with the information other than just enjoy it? As far as the family goes, it's a great family because you keep more in touch than my huge family. So it's just fun to be a part of it.
As a matter of fact, your family is a little bit different in size, isn't it?
Joe said earlier that he was from a family of 9. Now I have 9 girls and 4 boys, so we are a little bit bigger than Joe's original family.
Well, do you think it would be appropriate in this particular recording that we do some of the special techniques that they used in the Blair Witch Project, or do you think that would not be understood?
No, I think it's okay the way it is.
Anything else that you want to add?
Nope, that's it for now, folks.
Okay.
Saw an eagle.
How did you know where you were going?
They just did. My dad took care of everything. I wasn't paying attention to where we were.
Who paid the bill?
Dad did.
Where did he get the
He
money?
paid. He had extra flyer miles.
No, that
so-
doesn't do any good.
So we flew. Then it cost $500 a man at the cottage. $100 a day.
Oh my God.
And he paid for both me and Todd.
Were there a lot of people
There were
around?
wild Indians. They shot at us. We returned fire, and then we.
Were you near a lake?
Yeah, we were on the lake in our cottage.
How many people went?
It was me, Todd, Dad, who flew, and then Jamie and his 2 friends who drove.
2 girlfriends?
No, not girlfriends, friends.
Oh. And the big question is, did you catch any fish?
Yeah, we did.
Todd caught 21 northern, I think, in about an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
I caught 10 walleye the first day.
What in the world did you do with the fish?
We put them back. We kept some of them. One time we had a shore lunch, which means you pull up on this rock, and there's a place where all these rocks are in a circle, and you build a little fire, and you have a pan, and you clean your fish right there, and you put your fish in the pan, and have some beans that you put in the fire. And
Why didn't you bring those fish back so you could give some to your Joseph and Weiss?
Well, we brought 6 fish back, and that's the most.
Is that all?
That's the most you could bring across the border.
Per person?
Right.
Oh, so you
Or
brought...
I think you could only bring 2 per
So you
person.
brought 36 fish back?
No, you can only bring 2 fish per person.
Oh my gosh, that's hardly worth it.
Jules, can
Well,
What did you see in Canada?
we saw eagle's nest, and we saw
Did you see any animals?
we saw a moose.
A moose.
We saw a moose 2 times.
How does a moose compare with a deer?
A moose is humongous. It's as big as a horse.
Oh, it's a lot bigger than a deer.
Yeah,
Does it have horns?
yeah. And it's a male,
Oh.
I think, anyway.
How about that lake? Were there a lot of cottages on the lake?
None. There weren't even any roads to the cottages where we were.
How in the world did your dad know where he was going?
I don't know. I don't know.
And you were the only people on the lake?
No, there were other people in the cottages, but
No regular homes.
there weren't. If you saw another boat on the lake, you'd be surprised.
My gosh.
It was really neat. I wish I felt a little better to capture the moment more, but
You feel just fine. You're capturing the moment perfectly.
I feel terrible.
No, you feel just great.
You know me.
Check out the brats, shall we?
Okay. Can I be in this one too, Kim?
that last segment was
Oh.
No, you can.
Tim Urchel, who is the son of Jeannie,
See how nice these
Jeannie
are?
being the oldest of the children.
I can
Kim is the
tell.
youngest.
Better get, give me those
And we're
tongs.
looking
Joe
at
is
this.
world renowned for his
Kim's got a
bratwurst
new
making.
hairstyle.
Yes.
Do you like it?
Sorry for my hairstyle in
Ooh.
this video.
That looks kind of nice.
Kinda.
How are you two related, by the way?
She's dumb and I'm dumber. No, I
I'm his aunt, but I'm only
Oh,
2 years
you're
older.
his
1 year
aunt.
older.
1 year older?
You're 33, right?
4.
34. I'm 32.
But this year, you'll be
33
33.
in October.
Okay.
Who's the smartest?
Probably Tim.
Hi.
It's probably
Hi.
Tim
Look
in
at
the
all
math
these.
in the math skill department.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about that plush, lush, fabulous, extravagant apartment house you're living in?
Well, I had a really terrible apartment on Burnham, and now I live on Beecher, and I have an apartment that, it's not a great apartment or anything, but it has a couple of things that are kind of nice. Like it has
Running water.
a disposal, garbage disposal. It has a nice sunny view. It has a parking space and a storage space and air conditioning.
But the parking space is outside.
Right.
Well, and
And
Kim,
you're driving a new Cadillac now?
Is that a Hyundai?
Honda.
and Kim, where do you live?
A Muskego.
Muskego. That's an Indian word, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Probably.
Are there any Indians there?
Native Americans, no. Not that I know of, actually. It's a little bit Anglo-Saxon community.
Well, Kim, where do you fall in line in the family?
I'm definitely the youngest.
Too bad, because I mean, I'm
Much
covering
younger
this up
than
so the
my
bees don't-
siblings. I'm
I'll bring it
13
right
years
in. No,
younger
it's gotta be
than
this
the
big or it won't fit
closest
over the
sibling.
can.
That's in yours. Is that also in other forms? Are your brothers and sisters ancient compared to
Would
you?
they know? They act just as young and vivacious as I.
And you have a couple of kids yourself, don't you?
2 children. Later in the movie, I'm sure I'll be
Remember their
doing the
names.
Yeah.
You
Well,
have
yeah,
a
we'll get
sister
that.
that likes to take boat rides and drive motorcycles.
Now, careful what you say in the camera here. Anyway, isn't this movie about Joe Weiss, the brat maker?
The what maker?
Brat?
Oh, yeah, right.
He
No,
likes to
you
use
got
big
enough
words.
on that, Joel.
We
I don't
got-
think a camera like that should have a maximum of, say, 20 or 25 minutes. The worst thing with anything, any kind of entertainment, even if it would be Fred Waring or George Shearing or Tony Bennett or whoever, or Barbra Streisand, or even this man Luciano Pavarotti. 45 minutes is it. Any program that goes, some of these programs go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5.
Well, that's a good
Even
suggestion.
though they're outstanding, I think it's terrible to overdo it.
Well,
We
that's
saw a program by this guy Yanni. Do you ever hear of Yanni?
oh yeah, he's a pretty peculiar guy, isn't he?
But he went on and on and on and on. I think he played for about 3 hours. I was ready to collapse by the time he got there. He
But the-
overdid it. He spoiled it.
But those other names you said are actually your favorites, no doubt, right?
You can spoil it, and you're
Right.
almost ready to spoil this. You're doing too much.
Well, actually, this was we were also trying to get your family members in, and we thought we'd give Kim some fair time here.
Yeah, you're going to have about 2 hours on there.
We got about 7 minutes so far.
We're catching a lot of Dad's
No, I mean
big
the
words and usual topics about music being too long and how much he loves rock and roll and today's music. That's something we hear about frequently.
All right, well, we'll give this thing a little rest here right now.
Okay.
We'll catch a shot of the youngest member of the family, too. This being the 4th generation.
Theodore's
Did I say 4th generation?
Oh,
This is not.
third.
This is 3rd generation. This is the
Joel will
youngest
be-
member.
Joel will be the only 4th generation.
That's 4th generation, right.
But this is Theodore at 2 months old.
2 months old.
Sounds young, but looks old.
He looks a bit like a Weiss, don't you think?
Sure.
He's wiggling around right there.
Here comes Tim.
He's already hogged the camera.
Oh,
Who's that? Tim? Well, and here we have Jeannie. And Jeannie, what place are you within this family?
Jeannie would be the old one.
Well,
Would be the oldest of the 4 kids, and the one that Dad probably knew the least, at least in the beginning, because he wasn't around. He was overseas when I was born.
that's right.
Didn't know him for the first couple of years.
That's right. And you were probably actually not in this house until how old were you when we moved into this house?
We moved here when I was a freshman in high school. So we lived with Grandma and Grandpa Smith for all of my grade school years, and I'm trying to remember if we moved here. I think it was the summer right before I started high school. So
Well-
I was in this one for 4 years. And let me think, what would I say if I were thinking of important thing? I probably inherited lots of musical stuff from Dad. I consider Dad very musical.
You know, and that's good because in the earlier parts of this tape, in fact, what he talked about, he never even talked about his music. Maybe you can talk about what you remember him singing or doing musically.
Oh, he sang. I can remember him singing when I was very little, singing to me. I can remember him singing all the time, and he still does now. Obviously, we all know that. But he's got a true talent. It was never, he never had any education in it, so that wouldn't be a
Right.
professional or anything. But he can sit at the piano right now, and what he can do, he's learned on his own. And we know that he still sings with the barbershop quartet at age 80. I can remember when I was very young, he sang with the barbershop quartet then.
Right, we were just looking at some pictures with the first barbershop he was in, and I think he was actually there with one of his brothers and 2 other guys.
That's right. That's right. Uncle Bob and, oh boy, Townsend.
Ray Townsend, right? I forget the.
I don't remember
All
who
right.
the other one was. But I can remember him singing back then too. And of course he's the one who will say at Thanksgiving, we have to sing a song before we can eat supper.
Oh yeah.
Let's sing something patriotic. It's the 4th of July.
All right.
That and
Yeah.
I probably inherited musical ability from him and my wonderful teeth problems. Teeth and gum problems.
Teeth and gum
I
problems.
don't want to talk about
Well, I'm glad I didn't have that, Beth.
more than a second.
Bryce is a big boy. He's
Here comes the dog. All right.
and Oreo's gonna have his picture.
You want to sing happy birthday to Joe?
Sure.
Why don't you do that?
You
Okay? Is that long enough? Was that long enough?
Take some pictures before he gets away. Mike, do you have anything that can correct the glare? Mario, no stealing underwear. I'm trying to grab some socks.
You turned that off.
Five cameras. That's okay. We rewind the film. Let's take the picture. Where is he going?
I don't think that's open.
I just thought it would be easier.
This is my other favorite sister, and this is Mickey. Mickey, where did you stand in the family in the lineup of kids?
Third
You're
or second, whichever way we're going.
third
Third from
child,
the top, one, and
second girl,
from the bottom.
second girl, in either direction.
Right.
So, and you right now, you've got how many children do you have?
2 children. Evan right now is almost 16, God forbid, and Lauren is 11.
Great. And you, I'm trying to remember. You moved into when we moved into this house. Do you remember how old you were?
I was, I think, 5, going on 6.
So you can't even hardly remember the other place, probably.
No, I don't. There are certain things I remember at the old house, and that's the stair, the railing on the stairs.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I used to slide down the banister.
All right.
And I remember Dad going down and shoveling coal into the furnace.
That's, we didn't talk about that. I'm trying to remember that basement, yeah.
I just, it's just a real, very, very short memory, but I can see him standing down there with this big shovel and coal.
I remember that coal being delivered too. They used to deliver it. Yeah, and we had a coal bin, and they delivered on the side of the house.
Right.
And that comes sliding down. So in this house, then you had all your grade school and all high school years in this house.
That's right, yes.
Well,
Actually, I think I was in kindergarten at McLean School, and I think we were living at the old house when I went to kindergarten, which would have been age 5. So.
All right. Well, and what do you remember? What do you remember about Dad? Some of the interesting things about him.
Well, as I've been thinking about this, one of the memories, and I was just talking to Lauren about this because we were driving out on Highway 33 today, and Dad used to take me, and I would bet he did this with everyone, to the river, to the Milwaukee River, and drive through the river by the woolen mills, the old woolen mills.
Oh, sure.
And now there's a bridge there.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember being pretty scared when we were driving into that river. And
that's when there was a real river, too. Now it's a little bitty stream.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I was pretty little. Because it was before we had that 59 Chevy. So
Yeah.
some car we had earlier than that. I don't know what kind of car that was, but that's...
Yeah. Well, and you live now, let's see, 2 of the sisters live in the general area, and I'm in California, and you live?
In Iowa City, Iowa, and we've been there for 17 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, long time. We thought we'd be there maybe 5 at the most. And there we are, still there. So.
Sure, and you get up to see Dad and Mom here fairly often.
Yeah, we probably see them 4 or 5 times a year. Either they come here or we go there.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Great. Well, anything else? Any special other memories you can think of?
Well, there's a lot of memories to think about, and I guess one other one is what I mentioned to you earlier about coming home late when I was in high school and having the lights on in the living room and seeing my father standing at the window and how terrified I was of coming in the house because there he'd be.
Oh yeah, he ran the family pretty strong.
Yeah, but it was never a very, I don't know why I was afraid, actually. Just because I was afraid I'd disappoint him, I guess.
Ah, very good.
So, yeah, so that's it.
Okay, very good.